This episode of Southeast Iowa Today is brought to you by Griner Auto Body of Washington, Iowa, using state-of-the-art techniques and decades of experience to get your car back on the road after an accident. Car Doctor of Washington, Iowa. No matter who Frankensteined it, they can fix it, clean it, and customize it. McDonald Boneyard of Keota, Iowa, for all your farm equipment and auto recycling needs. For great food, it's your choice. Your Choice Family Restaurant of Wayland, Iowa. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Come to our cruise-ins this summer on the second Tuesday of the month, June through September. Girling Repair of Winfield, Iowa. If your mower is dead, call Fred, your Husqvarna, Aaron's, and Gravely dealer. Fred also fixes and sells snowblowers. B&B Propane and the family of Jet Stops. Dutch Market and Coffee Talk of Washington, Iowa. Dutch Market can handle all of your grocery needs. They even have a conference room you can use for free. Coffee Talk's drive-thru is open and ready to serve you coffee, energy drinks, sandwiches, baked goods, and ice cream. They all present you the award-winning Southeast Iowa Today. Here's the author of Christie's Journey, The Beat Goes On, and your host, John Bain.
Thank you, announcer Cody Roy, for your golden pipes and wonderful introduction. And Cody is from NewEnglandDukes.com. When you see this guy,
hey,
Bob DeWitt on the screen with me, you know we're day tripping. And today, Bob, tell the folks where we're at.
we are in the little town of Tampico, Illinois, the birthplace of President Ronald Reagan. The museum and birthplace all in one building, or a shared building.
That's right. In fact, it's so much shared, you're going to find out in this segment how the Reagans went from one apartment to the other
And
passed through the window.
we did too.
And we did too.
We did too.
And Joan Johnson from the Ronald Reagan Birthplace Museum here in Tampico gives us a tour. Bob, let's get started.
Let's get started.
Joan, thank you so much for allowing Bob and I to have this tour today at the Ronald Reagan Birthplace Museum.
We are very welcome. We're honored to have you come and visit us.
Thank you. Now, we talked a little bit off camera first, just so we could get to know each other a little bit and kind of see what the museum has to offer before we actually turned on the camera. But you've got a neat pamphlet in your hand. Can you tell the viewers and listeners about that?
This shows our rainbow. November 3rd, 1980, the night before election, this rainbow appeared coming right down over where he was born. The next day was election day, of course, and he was elected by a landslide. We're very proud of our rainbow, and we sent it to him, so he kept it in his office at the White House all the time he served as president. He told about receiving it in his autobiography and how eerie it was to look at it. But as he looked at it, he said, you know, it looks like there's two rainbows. Do you think that means two terms?
It sure
and
does.
It turned out to be that.
And you know, when we were talking first, I told you I was getting goosebumps. And I got them again right now.
Oh, well.
And I hope folks that are watching too did, because this is pretty amazing.
It was a very, very wonderful thing that someone was able to capture this picture.
And you know, and people that can actually pick up on signs and messages, see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're very happy with this.
That is awesome. Well, let's look around. Show us around. Tell us about Tampico, Illinois, and where we're at right now, and what all this means with our 40th President of the United States.
Okay. Well, Ronald Reagan was born in the building right next door, upstairs in the apartment. At the time he was born, this was a grocery store, and the building next door is a bakery. The bakery moved out eventually, and the bank moved in. The bank was in existence until the 1930s, then it closed, and then it was the city hall for some while. When he was governor of California, Mr. and Mrs. Nicely, who owned the building, started doing the research on the family and on the town, and they collected all kinds of antiques and such, and they restored the upstairs apartment to look very much like it was when the family was living there.
So they kind of had a little inkling after his whole movie star days and his days as governor of California in the 1960s, I think it was.
Yes.
That, hey, this guy, he's kind of a big deal.
Yes, they actually had a big sign out in front that said birthplace of the governor of California before he became the president.
And now it says birthplace of President Ronald Reagan.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
incredible.
Mhm.
Well, this is just amazing to me. How many famous people come from the Midwest and such. And I know when we were talking earlier, you were mentioning some other Illinois towns that Ronald Reagan and his family lived in.
Correct.
That also mirror some famous people, other famous people. So we'll talk about that as we go on.
Okay, fine.
Right. Well, where would you like to go next in here?
Well, I just will tell you that he went to work when he got here. He went to work for Mr. Pitney in his general store. And back here is what the general store looked like.
Okay. And this would have been Ronald Reagan's father that worked
Yes,
there.
I'm sorry. This is Jack.
Jack
Reagan.
Okay.
Jack and Nell came from Fulton. They had worked together in a store over there. After they were married, they learned that Tampico was a growing, prosperous community. And so Jack got a job with Mr. Pitney as a salesman, and he was an excellent salesman for Mr. Pitney. He even did some buying for him in the area for what they would sell. But they sold anything and everything: shoes, clothing, groceries, all kinds of things.
And this building is still located right across the street.
It's across the street, and it's the break room now, but that was the general store.
That is really neat. And Fulton, Illinois, for folks at southeast Iowa may not be sure exactly where it's at. It's on the west side of Illinois, on the banks of the Mississippi River, right across the river from Clinton, Iowa.
Correct. And it is a Dutch community. Now, neither Jack nor Nell, Ronald's mother and father, were of Dutch heritage, but that's where they both grew up. They worked together in the store over there before they moved over here.
Now, which one of the Reagans was called Dutch?
Ronald was called Dutch.
Okay.
His father, when he was born, he was a big baby, and his father said, "He makes a heck of a lot of noise for a fat little Dutchman." And Ronald loved to be called Dutch. And he did a lot of correspondence with his friends, and he always signed everything Dutch.
I'll be darned.
So,
that's neat.
He thought that was much more masculine.
Isn't that something?
And he loved that.
You know, we've done a podcast on John Wayne before, and there are so many similarities between the two. I mean, you know, he liked to be called Duke because it was more masculine than Marion.
Sure.
You know, and I mean, and then being from a small town and you know, in the Midwest, it's just, there's a lot of similarities.
Yes. Now, the family lived upstairs for 6 years. His older brother Neil was born up there, and soon after Ronald was born, they moved to this little house. And it's just down the street, across the street. Anyway, it is still there. It's privately owned. And he was there until he was just a little over 4 years old.
Okay.
And then Mr. Pitney sold his store. So Jack Reagan had to find work someplace else. So they moved to Chicago. And he worked in a department store in Chicago for a short time. They decided they really didn't care about Chicago, so he got a job in Galesburg. So the family moved to Galesburg, and they moved to this house in Galesburg.
Okay.
The house is actually still standing there. Looks a little bit different.
Can you tilt that just a little?
Okay.
There you go, just like that.
Okay.
We'll get a good.
Okay, and
picture.
the house is still there. There's a sign out in front of it that states that the Reagans had lived there.
Okay.
While they were there, they went to started school. And in the Silas Willard School. And Ronald went through first grade, and Neil, of course, was a couple years older.
Okay.
So then they moved on to Monmouth the next year. When they got to Monmouth, they tested Ronald for school, and instead of second grade, they passed him on to third grade. He had a photographic memory and was able to get ahead in his schoolwork and everything.
Well, we have to mention Monmouth, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Bob and I did a podcast in Monmouth last fall at the Wyatt Earp birthplace.
Oh, okay, sure.
So, for you historians, Ronald Reagan and Wyatt Earp, not at the same time, but did live in the same town at one time. Isn't that
great?
And Bob is from Galesburg.
Yes, yes, I am.
And you know, besides Bob being there, Ronald Reagan was there.
The house that he lived in, he probably walked to school because it's literally a block away.
Oh,
from the
okay.
school, and the original school's torn down, but they built a new one probably 5 or 6 years ago. My granddaughter went to the old Silas.
Oh,
And then
okay.
the grandson went to the new Silas because they had built the new one by then.
Well, great.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's just fun to, when you can relate people in history to places that you've actually been. It's really exciting, isn't it?
Right, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So they moved over to Monmouth, and they weren't there very long because the young man who purchased the store died.
Wow.
And I don't know, just heart problems or something. He died. So Mr. Pitney bought the store back and had Jack Reagan come back and work for him as well.
He must have just been lonesome
Well,
for the Reagans.
evidently they got along awfully well.
I was just saying, after some of our presidents in between Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, I got lonesome for Ronald Reagan.
Okay. So the family, when they moved back, they moved into the apartment above the store across the street.
Okay.
And they were here until he was just about 10 years old. And then Mr. Pitney and Mr. Reagan purchased a shoe store in Dixon. So the family moved to Dixon. And while they were there, the boys finished grade school, they finished high school, they both went to Eureka College. After he graduated from college, he went to work for a radio station in Davenport.
WOC.
Right, okay. Moved on to WHO, and while he was there, they had him as their sportscaster. So he was out in California broadcasting the Chicago Cubs spring training when he got into the movies. And he was in 53 movies between 1937 and 1964.
That's a lot of movies.
It is, it is. And all of that time, as soon as he got established in the movies, he moved his parents out to California. But until that time, from the time he was 10 years old until then, the family lived in Dixon. And so Dixon is the boyhood home, but Tampico is the birthplace.
And if my memory and information serves correct, when he was in Dixon, as a teenager, he was a lifeguard on the Rock River.
Yes, but he learned how to swim in Tampico.
Really?
Tampico was a growing town. Among the things besides farming is they were building the canal.
Oh.
This is the Hennepin feeder canal.
Yes.
It starts in Rock Falls and it ends up in the Quad Cities.
Oh,
So these are early pictures of the canal. The water was let into the canal in 1907. Of course, he was born in 1911. So he was still the water was still pretty fresh and everything when he was old enough to swim.
Oh,
but this
neat.
is where he learned to swim.
That's incredible. That's really neat.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So when they got to Dixon, he was a lifeguard up there. This is a picture of the where the lifeguard station was, and he saved 77 lives. When he would get out of bring the person out, there was a log he could put a little notch in, so he had 77 notches. However, we have heard that there were a couple girls that were saved more than once.
I've heard that. They just wanted to make sure they were.
Yes. Well,
he was ready when needed.
with a good-looking lifeguard and everything. It was pretty nice.
That is neat.
His father was Irish heritage and Catholic. Attended our Catholic church here. The church is still active. His mother, Nell, was English and Scottish heritage, and she was Protestant.
Okay.
And she attended our Church of Christ. Neil was baptized in the Catholic Church. Ronald was raised Protestant with his mother.
Okay.
The Church of Christ, the building is still there, but it actually did close just recently.
Oh, that's too bad.
He was here in 1950 as a movie star, and we have some pictures up there at the top. The picture with the two ladies is his mother in the dark dress is Mrs. Walgreen in the light dress. That was taken at the Walgreen Pharmacy home, which is in Dixon.
Oh my goodness! Joan, you're teaching me so much today. I had no idea that Walgreens did it start here?
Well, they actually started in the Chicago area, but their
Okay.
home was in Dixon.
Dixon, I'll be darned. That is neat. I'm going to show that one more time. So when people like me are trying to absorb that, there you go. You can really pick up. That is nice. That's neat.
He was here, that was 1950. He was here then in 1976 when he ran for president the first time. And he promised he would come back again. He did not make it while he was serving as president, but Mother's Day 1992, he and Nancy came back. And the first thing they did that day was attend church. Here they are going into the church. That's the pastor heading on in. After the church service, they came downtown and had lunch. And then after lunch, they came down here for a tour. And so
actually, right in this room.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. And the volunteers here knew that he would keep his promise and he would show up. So they had this rug prepared for him. Ronald Reagan stepped here. And there is a picture over there of him stepping on his rug.
How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? That is really something special right there. Ronald Reagan stepped here. Joan, that is awesome. I think with that, let's wrap up this segment and we'll pick up in a different area.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Bob, can you tell the folks what to do?
Like, follow, and subscribe if you're enjoying these podcasts so we can keep doing them.
It's free and we sure appreciate you. Joan, you've got something special to show us.
Yes, we don't understand why this is, but Ronald Reagan had a habit of putting his hand on his chin from the time he was a young boy until, as the picture over here emphasizes, there it is. And we have different ages of the same picture.
Okay, well, let's see where.
And here it is. This is his class picture. And there he is in the corner with his hand on his chin.
Isn't that something? And none of the other kids are doing that, are they?
No. This is his Sunday school picture. But he's back here right there. But it just looks like he has a bow in his hair, but it's the other girl.
Yeah.
But we can't see where his hand is there.
Yeah.
But it's just unique, and we do have other pictures in the museum with him doing that. The railroad came through here, and we had a stockyards just down the street. And here is the railing with him sitting on the railing with his hand on his chin as well.
That is something special. I just wonder, I mean, in the older picture of him, or when he was older, it just looked like he was happy and thoughtful. And then, but you look at him as a young boy, and it's the same thing. And
it's just unusual. And there was, they did one of the forever stamps with his hand on his chin as well.
And I still think, with the way they took pictures back then, maybe that was a way to stand out and to find himself in the picture later.
It likely could be.
But then again, you look at the other picture when he was older, and it just looks like he's amazed or impressed, or so yes. Maybe it's just that's really special.
It is. We think it is.
Well, thanks for sharing that 1 minute and 59 seconds worth of podcast excellence added on to the others that we've done, Joan. So let's wrap up here, and we'll go see more.
Okay.
Well, as you can tell, and as obviously you can tell if you've been watching the podcast, we're in Tampico, Illinois. And Bob, there's something we always want to ask people in between segments.
Like, follow, and subscribe so we can keep doing these podcasts.
It's free, and we sure appreciate you. Joan, we're in the bank.
Yes, this is the First National Bank. There actually were two banks in Tampico at the time. We were really a growing, prosperous community.
It sounds like it. So what all do we have in here?
Well, the bank actually opened across the street in 1908. Then they moved here in 1918. And this is all the original fixtures that were here. After the bank closed in the Depression, then the City Hall moved in, and they moved all these fixtures into the basement. And after And so it was just regular counters and such as that for the city hall.
Now, it seems like nowadays, whenever something gets moved, it gets destroyed and we never see it again.
Correct.
Yeah.
But these were all in the basement.
Wow.
So after Mr. and Mrs. Nicely passed away, a new owner, an attorney from Chicago, purchased this and discovered all of these fixtures were in the basement. They found the floor plans, so this is put back as it was when the bank moved in 1918.
Wow. So if we walked through these doors and came through, this is what a bank would look like in 1918.
Correct.
That is really something.
A lot of people think this looks like the Christmas movie. It's a yes.
It's a Wonderful Life.
So, yes,
Yeah.
that's what they all seem to think. But we also, Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher were very close friends. And a couple of years ago, the mayor of Grantham, England, was here, and that's where Margaret Thatcher was born.
Oh, wow.
And we had a ribbon joining or a city joining ceremony.
That is really something. They were definitely good friends, weren't they?
Yes, and so our two mayors got together and had a ceremony.
That is really something. This is a very special history, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Back here, we have
Whoops.
this used to be a Civil War cannon down in our park, and that is not Ronald Reagan, but that's something that he loved to do, was play on that cannon.
Okay.
And it went to a scrap drive.
Huh.
So now we have a statue of a cannon with a young boy standing on it.
Oh,
with his hand on his chin.
Yes.
So that statue is quite nice. We're very
really
proud of that.
That is something.
And the gentleman who did the statue belonged to the teak fraternity. Ronald Reagan also belonged to the teak, and so that gentleman donated the teak paddle.
Wow. To Dutch Reagan, 1932, from Illinois Teaks.
Right.
That's cool.
Over here we have the family portrait. Was at a Christmas card, and it was Jack and Nell and Neil, and they called him Moon for an old comic strip called Moon Mullins.
Okay.
But this is Ronald.
Huh.
And that really is Ronald. He just was not old enough yet to have long pants.
Right.
So I have to try to explain to people that really was him.
I believe you.
The Young America's Foundation, which owns the ranch, send calendars out every year with pictures taken at the ranch. And of course, he loved his horses. He learned to ride horseback when he was here. He had friends right outside of town that had their horses. He loved that, and it was great. The ranch was just a wonderful place for him. But and the more he could do outside, the happier he was. So here he's got his axe, but here he's running the chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
And I did ask someone one time, I said, weren't you kind of nervous with him running a chainsaw? And the gentleman says, that was bad, but when he was running the chipper, it was a lot worse. So they had to be very careful.
There you go. Yeah. Well, he really personified America.
Right.
He really, just in those pictures right there, you see that.
Yes,
yes. It's really something. Now, here's a neat license plate from 1989, Illinois license plate.
Yes, we're able to get special license plates, and a lot of people purchased them, and they were able to use them on their car for a certain number of months.
Happy birthday, President Reagan, February 6th. And that was
This was his second term.
Okay. And then is the 61, was that how old he was?
No, that was just numbers.
We had was the county number.
Like 100 license plates available.
Oh, okay. That's what it was. I wasn't, and anybody that's listening right now and laughing on my math, it's because I'm recording this and talking to Joan. I'm not doing math right now.
That's not right.
Well, that is awesome. Is there anything else special that you'd like to show us here?
The railroad came through here on the way to Chicago, and then we had a short line train that went to Hoople, Yorktown, and Tampico. That was for the farmers to move their grain, livestock, and such.
Uh-huh.
And so it was Hoople, Yorktown, and Tampico. It went 13 miles down to Hoople, and then it had to back up because there was no turnaround for it. And so sometimes it had little mishaps and things. So they called that train the dummy.
Oh.
And the kids loved it because they would run out to the edge of town and hop on the caboose and ride it up to the depot.
It was probably easy to tell whether it was coming or going, though.
Right. Right. And so he told stories about the dummy, as they called it.
Wow, that is really special. That is really special.
So in here, we have some of the original bank books. This is a weekly report of all the depositors.
Okay.
And it starts on December 22nd, 1919.
Wow.
Mrs. J.E. Reagan, which would be Nell. Of course, after women were married, then they didn't have their first names, that they went by their husband's name.
Huh.
So Mrs. Reagan on Monday had $95. But over here on December 24th, she withdrew $2.
I'll be darned.
And we're trying to figure out what all she could have bought with that $2.
Now, you said December?
December 22nd and then December 24th.
So she was doing a little Christmas shopping.
We figure possibly. Yeah.
That's neat. That is really something.
And
yeah,
then,
and back then, though, $2 probably went pretty far.
They could, a couple Christmas presents possibly, or something good to eat.
Yeah.
It's just hard to tell what all.
Oh, that is really special.
And then this is the outline of the state of Illinois with Reagan characteristics.
Oh.
And it's very special to me because the gentleman who drew that is this gentleman right here. And he came all the way from Russia to present it to us.
Wow.
He was a Russian, but a great fan of Ronald Reagan.
Now, am I pronouncing his name right when I say Sergei Pakhamov?
It sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, we'll take that then.
Yes, that sounds good.
All right. That is special.
Yeah, it was very special.
Yeah.
So here is the bank equipment.
Uh-huh.
And this is a coin dispenser. So if you're cashing a check for a customer that had change on it, you just put your hand under here.
That's pretty slick.
And you hand it out. And there was extra space up here to have a dollar's worth or whatever,
Sure.
a coin up there.
Wow.
And then these are original checks we found down in the basement that were never used. When a person would write a check, it would get to into the bank and be recorded, and then it would be canceled that day so that it couldn't be used a second time.
Sure.
And then at the end of the month, you would get your canceled checks in the mail. So this check has been cashed or canceled as of today. Today's the 14th.
Oh, nice.
And we love to hand souvenirs like this out to our customers.
That is really neat.
So you get to have that when you find
you.
a spot for it.
Thank you.
Now, as I mentioned, when the city hall came in, they moved all of this out and downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
However, this stayed here.
Oh. Well, I can see why.
Yeah, weighs a couple tons.
Yeah.
Now, some kids got in here and vandalized. They were working upstairs, but there was nothing down here, nothing to get into or anything. But these kids knocked the combination off.
Wow.
And so without the combination, you can't get in.
Right.
And so the locksmith had quite a chore to be able to open this back up.
Wow.
And you see all the drill marks and such
Yes.
in order to find the right little jewel.
Isn't that amazing?
But you look and see
It's how ornate they are, too.
yes.
What do you think, and maybe you know, what would it have cost for a vault, a safe like this?
I am not for sure. This came from Cincinnati, Ohio, and there are some papers about it.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking maybe 4,000, back in those days.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I don't want to say it was
But I mean,
for
whatever,
sure without looking at it.
4,000. If someone just goes on Google and says $4,000 in 1918,
Yeah,
what's that
well,
equivalent in
yeah.
2025? You
Yeah,
better
right.
be sitting down. It's a
But
big number.
how ornate all of the handwork, if you can
It's just
see it.
beautiful.
It is. And then they had a safe inside here, and that was for the bank's use.
Okay.
So to get in that, you take this wheel and put it on the shaft, and you turn it
Okay.
after you run the combination. And then it comes out, and someone has said it's like a barrel safe, I guess, because it kind of goes like that.
Okay.
And then there's a shelf in there, and the bank would have used that. But then back here, we have safe deposit boxes that were rented to the customers.
Wow.
And when the banks closed, some people forgot that they had left anything in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And as they were going through this, there were some people they could not find to hand these things back to them. So we have this 90-cent check that's dated 1918. So it's over 100 years old.
That is really something.
And to try to figure out what kind of story to put together for that, as to why they left that here and forgot it. It's just that is real neat. So we have a lot of Reagan and Tampico, but even some banking history here.
Yeah. Who'd ever thunk? I guess Bob DeWitt would thunk it, because he told us that we should be day tripping here.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Bob, you've got something special over there, and we're going to share my microphone, so talk loud. There's a poster here called Bedtime for Brezhnev.
Yeah, some college kids came up with that, knowing Reagan's background in the movies. And right after he was inaugurated, they were out of the East Coast, I think New York, but they put this poster out. And honestly, I don't remember how I found it, because it was before the internet or eBay, but I had this hanging in my office. And I remember one of the orthopedic surgeons that I worked with seeing it. He said, "I've got to have one." So I bought another one, and I've had this at home, and I thought, there's not a better place than this. So we brought it up here a few years ago. But if you look, from out of the West, they dusted off their guns to protect the world they knew and the women they loved. And co-starring Nancy Davis, based on an original concept by Barry Goldwater. I like introducing Gary Brown as a preacher. Bush, Haig, Kissinger. It's really well done. And now the copyright's up, and you can find them on eBay in all different sizes. But that's one of the original ones that the college kids put out. And
well,
I just thought it was cool.
That was a very nice gesture on your part, but I bet you feel even more honored that it's here.
Yes, I am.
It is. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
True.
Well, have we seen everything in the bank, or is there some more?
Well, these are some of the newspaper clippings from our Tampico tornado. It was a weekly paper.
Okay.
I call it an early Facebook.
Oh, okay.
But you see, we had two banks. We had the First National Bank, which is this one, and then the Tampico Bank is over there someplace. I know we got another ad for that.
Mm-hmm.
But just to look through the different items and such. Now, this is the bank ad. This is the Pitney ad, and that's
where
Jack Reagan worked for. Yes. Whoops, sorry. Mr. Seymour, this was the grocery store next door.
Okay.
Elmendorf, the meat market, was right next door that way. But, and here's another Pitney ad. But parents, the funeral home is next door. It's always been next door. Undertaking was their specialty, because in the back, they had a shop where they made furniture.
Okay.
And so when they weren't, over here is another ad for them where they had phonographs, rugs, linoleum, and furniture. So when they weren't doing their specialty of undertaking and having a funeral, they were selling furniture and things.
It's probably really good quality too, I bet.
Definitely, I'm certain of that.
That is neat. There's so much history here, and we're just scratching the surface.
Right. One of the little, there's, like I said, kind of like a Facebook, because people had to tell if they had company, on Sunday, or somebody got a new car. But
Little bragging going on.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But there was one, and I don't find it right now, but this man, he said that he put an ad in the paper that he had found a set of false teeth, and they didn't fit him, so he took them to the tornado to see if somebody else wanted them.
I hope he was kidding. I hope he didn't try them on first.
Well, who knows?
That's funny.
This is his parents, Jack and Nell's wedding picture.
Oh,
They were married in the Catholic parsonage over in Fulton.
1904, November 8th, 1904.
And this is his mother's family. That's his mother, that's Nell, and her sisters and brothers, and then that's his grandmother.
I'll be darned.
Those pictures are from the Fulton Historical Society.
Now, was Ronald Reagan's middle name Wilson?
Yes, and
So
this
he
is
got
the
that
Wilson
from his-
family. Yes,
From
from
the
his
Wilson
mother's family.
There
Mhm.
you go. Nice.
We do have a lot of foreign visitors and the Eastern Europeans. When they come, they often have tears in their eyes because they're so grateful to Ronald Reagan. After a group from Poland finished their tour, they left us a solidarity banner.
And this is important for people today to realize the impact that Ronald Reagan had on the world.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that this is here and that we're going to learn more about that.
One evening, I received a phone call that someone was here at the birthplace, and I said I could have somebody here within 5 minutes if they wanted a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleman says, no, it's dinner time. I don't want to bother anybody. So the next morning, this sign, along with a dozen roses, was sitting out on the front step.
Well, I'm going to read this for the folks that are only listening to this program. Mr. President, you are the greatest president the world has ever seen. You had freed my country, Hungary, and the world from leftist freeloading barbarians. Your name alone will strike fear into communists and freeloaders everywhere for centuries to come. God bless you and your family. Sincerely, an American citizen from Florida, Tom Leibel and family. I think Tom said it well, didn't he?
Yes, I just think so very much. Fortunately, I had his phone number. I was able to get his address, and I sent him a few things from the birthplace then.
And how long ago was that when that happened?
I am not sure.
Okay.
It's been at least 10 years.
Okay, well that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And of course, we know that he was this lifeguard. That's what he looked like. But then this is the kind of suit he had, and it was wool, just not anything comfortable.
No. And buttons on it too.
Yeah. Now, right after he was elected in November of 1980, People magazine came. And I mean, they had a group of newsmen that wanted to find out all about Ronald Reagan. So through the week, they visited with different ones. This was Mrs. Nicely, and this was a classmate. This is a lady who lived in the house where they moved to. And then on Sunday, everybody in Tampico is supposed to be out in front, get their picture taken. So this was a Sunday afternoon deal.
Now I wonder if there's anybody with their hand on their chin.
Well, I don't know about that for sure. I'm not sure. Get the microphone or the magnifying out and look for that. So anyway, that's People magazine was here, and they did this big deal. However, when they published the paper, they took all the people out. It made us look plainer than planes.
Wow.
Now, that didn't go over real well.
Sounds familiar, though.
That sounds like the same kind of stuff that goes on today.
I'm just saying, is that some kind of fake news?
Yeah, some kind of fake news. And I want people to realize when they post all those things on Facebook and they go, remember, and they have a picture of Walter Cronkite, and they remember when news was so nice and good? It's never been nice or good. You've been fooled all this time, people.
Right. So that, that just didn't go over real well.
No.
So that's about everything down here.
But I think Tampico won in the end.
Well, I believe so. Oh, yeah, there's a picture over here. That's what you...
I have to show this because he's wearing a Galesburg jersey.
Oh, neat.
In a movie where he played Grover Cleveland Alexander, and he must have played an exhibition game in Galesburg. And these show up in Galesburg every once in a while as cards. I've got one somewhere, but I just thought I had to show that.
You did have to show it.
I was pretty sure there was, when you mentioned it earlier, I thought that was here.
This is just wonderful. Have you seen the Reagan movie with Dennis Quaid?
3 times.
Wasn't that wonderful? I mean,
yeah, I really would like to see it again.
Me too.
It was just absolutely super.
I was fortunate. I saw it on the big screen myself, and what a just cinematography in that was just wonderful.
Yeah, he just portrayed him so wonderfully.
He did, and it's a shame that Hollywood ignored him for an Academy Award. Yeah. I mean, when you ignore movies like that and actors like that portrayed so well, it makes the Academy Award less meaningful.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
But yes, I had the privilege of getting to see it before it actually came out.
Oh, well, now you're showing off. Was that over in Dixon that you saw?
Well, it started at Eureka.
Oh, Eureka?
From Eureka College, they showed it down in Peoria.
Oh, okay.
And then in Dixon. Yeah.
Wow. See, I wish I would have known Joan last fall. I would have said, "Hey, got a couple extra tickets."
One of the young men who has helped here since he was like 7th grade. He is a graduate of Eureka College, and is from Tampico, and so we're good friends. And he and his parents helped me get to different spots.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. And you've got an old school television here. We got to show this for the kids that are watching. Hopefully there's some watching.
With a VHS player.
Yeah,
it's a player. So once in a while we can, if somebody can't get upstairs, we'll show a little bit of telling about it.
And I think when that television came out with the VHS player and probably recorder as well, that was probably a $600 to $1,000 item.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you get these huge things for a couple hundred.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, Joan, this is wonderful. Is there any other places we need to see here today?
Do you want to see the apartment where he was born?
Oh, I sure do.
We have to go upstairs to do that.
Yes, let's wrap up this segment and head upstairs.
Okay, sure.
Bob.
Yes.
We showed pictures of this statue with young Ronald Reagan with his hand on his chin.
And here it is behind us.
Yeah, look at that, with the cannon and the whole bit. Obviously, we're in between segments, and we have to put something in here so you folks get to see us and hear us. What's the one thing we like to tell them?
Like, follow, and subscribe. Keep it up.
Please, we appreciate you. You folks make it all worthwhile. Make some comments down below. Tell us what you think of the museum. Tell us if you've ever been here. If you're going to come to Tampico, guess what? Tampico is going to celebrate their sesquicentennial.
Yes. 150
years. Ronald Reagan's birth date anniversary in February was 115 years, and this town is now 150.
Yep.
So make sure to come on out, and like I said, leave some comments below, and also if I need a haircut, you can tell me that too. Bob.
Yes.
These are quite the steps, aren't they?
Come on up.
All right. I'm going to turn around when I get to the top and show the folks what it looks like going down.
Our steep, aren't they?
So those are the steps up to what was the Reagan apartment home.
Right. Welcome.
Thank you.
When the Reagans were here, these are typical of what they had. None of the things are actually the Reagans.
Okay.
But they had their heating stoves. They had the party line telephone. They had electricity. Tampico was among the first communities in the area to have their own electric light plant.
Well, that's pretty cool.
It is. It shows their forwardness.
Yeah.
They had the skylight. It was screened so they could open it and get ventilation in the summertime. Brings a lot of light here in the wintertime as well.
I bet.
They had 3 bedrooms and they all have closets. That was very unusual in the early days.
Yeah.
It rented for $10 a month. And Jack Reagan was making $1 a day across the street working for Mr. Pitney. But Nell was very talented. She took in sewing and mending. She taught voice. She taught piano, and was just all around able to help contribute to the family's welfare.
So if you, for $10 a month, you got all of this, then you can just imagine what you could have got for $2 at Christmas time.
I guess so. Right.
Yeah.
Right. He did learn to ride horseback when he was here. This was actually taken in Dixon, but you notice his glasses.
Yeah.
You hardly ever saw him with glasses, but he had very poor eyesight and was among the first people to start using contact lenses.
Wow.
Here's his mother, his brother, and himself. And here he is getting ready to go swimming. There's him, his brother, dad, and mom.
He's just young in there.
Yep.
And he's putting on his swimming shirt.
Something or other.
Yeah.
Right.
Huh.
I always like to point this picture out because he was just a little over 3 years old. I guess his dad had made this little cart for him, but he's got his American flag.
Yes,
and I just feel that's showing very early patriotism.
Yes. Yeah.
This is another picture of the cannon, and that's his mother and a couple of her sisters sitting on the cannon.
The cannon was a popular spot, wasn't it?
Yeah, there are different pictures around in the town. This is their parlor, where they could entertain their friends, possibly even do a little play practice, because we had an opera house across the street. Jack and Nell acted in plays over there as well.
Okay, so he kind of came by the acting bug naturally.
A little bit,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
This is the Wilson family. It's his mother, who was a Wilson, his dad, and those are her sisters and brother. But here we are, with a hand on the chin bit.
Yes.
There's his brother. Those two are cousins. This is one of the times
It's just almost like he knew he was destined for greatness, and he was going to strike a pose.
He sure did. He sure did. Jane Wyman, his first wife.
Okay.
They were in 6 movies together, and then he and Nancy were just in 1 movie together.
Okay.
For entertainment, they could use the stereopticon, and this is a 3D picture you put up and look through the pictures. And their ad said that you could see the world from your parlor by having those.
And you really could, couldn't you?
Mm-hmm. His mother was a very Christian lady, and her Bible was used in both inaugurals.
Oh.
This is typical of her Bible. Her Bible is actually out in California at the library.
Okay.
But her favorite Bible verse was the 7th chapter, 14th verse of 2 Chronicles. And it is, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal their land. And she had written in the margin, it's the most wonderful verse for the healing of a nation.
Wow. I can't argue that.
Yeah. So, turn around,
Okay.
and there is a bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
That's the bedroom where both he and his brother were born.
Wow. This is the actual room. And we're not making this up, folks. This is where Ronald Reagan and his older brother were born. In this room.
He was born about 6 o'clock in the morning on February 6, 1911. We had had a huge snowstorm the night before. The trains couldn't even run because the drifts were so high. But Dr. Terry and a midwife were here. Dr. Terry was able to get here through the snow because his office was down on the corner and the family lived upstairs.
Well, that
So
was
he could get
convenient.
But it was a very difficult birth
Oh,
because Ronald Reagan weighed over 10 pounds.
really?
And if you can imagine, just right here in a house
Yeah,
with the doctor, it was pretty rough.
I bet so.
So when his dad saw him, he said, he makes a heck of a lot of noise for a fat little Dutchman. And so therefore he loved to be called Dutch.
There you go. That's neat.
So this part of the apartment you could shut off and conserve the heat, but so this was considered the guest bedroom, but that's where she had her babies. As she recuperated, she could look out the window and watch all the goings on Main Street, which
That's nice.
with the farmers coming in and all the traffic, it was busy.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Well, you really have it nice up here. As you said before, this was not their furniture, but it's definitely from the time period.
Correct. Here in the dining room, as they were restoring this, they went down 5 layers of wallpaper and found this pattern. And the Reagans were the first ones to occupy this apartment when they got it put together. And so they're pretty sure this could have been the pattern on the wall here when they were here.
Wow. Very nice.
Now, this was actually Jack and Nell's bedroom.
Okay.
And you see that the skylight is in there as well.
Yeah.
So Nell didn't really care about the skylight in case they had a lightning storm.
Ah.
She didn't want to be woken up in the middle of the night
With that kind of show,
right.
Yeah.
And then that's just a pantry. And here's our party line telephone. You would call and listen and talk to the operator. If you ever watch Andy Griffith, you can kind of figure that out.
Yes.
Our cook stove is missing its reservoir. That would have been a pan hooked on here where they got hot water.
Okay.
The stone, it would hold the heat for a long while. They could warm their beds with it, or they could take it on the buggy rides, and it would hold the heat for a while.
Okay.
And then here's irons. As one cooled down, you just could rotate them. It's a lot easier to just open the dryer door and flip it.
Yeah, it sure is.
This would hold matches.
Okay.
It wouldn't be on the top of the stove, though.
Right.
And these are cupboards. And then they would keep water in these green bottles. Now, the rolling pin is from the Pitney store.
Okay.
Where Jack Reagan always worked.
Right.
The White House cookbook has some of the first president's wives' recipes in there. Like how to cook caribou and all kinds of things that I'm not too interested in.
Yeah.
Now, I hadn't mentioned before, but they did not have running water. So they had to bring the water in and take it out.
Okay.
For the bathroom, everything had to go outside.
Wow.
So this is a dry sink.
Gotcha.
And so it would be waterproof somehow or other so they could do their chores, whatever they had to do there. But this is my favorite antique. And I just love to have people guess as to what it might be. It would be a little taller, so there would be room for bowls under it.
So like I want to say like a juicer or something.
Well, you're along the line.
Along the line, okay. Bob, you probably know.
Apples, apple peeler, cutter. You haven't been here for 2 years.
Is he warm or cold?
There actually is a kind of a clue in here. You just kind of look around.
Is it the pie?
That might be a clue.
Got something to do with the pie.
Actually, that looks more like a blueberry pie than a cherry pie.
Okay. So is
So
that to
this
get
is-
pits? Get
this
the
is-
pits out.
Cherry pitter.
Okay.
So it's a double cherry pitter. So you drop 2 cherries there, push the pits out, they'd come down here, and then the cherries would get knocked off there.
Wow.
I just think it's really neat.
It is neat.
And over the amount of time I've been doing this year, almost everybody knew what it was.
Huh.
They're just spoiling
They're
my
older than us.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
spoiling my treat.
Or they're more culinary geniuses.
I guess so. And of course, this is the ice box. They would get the ice out of the canal and the drainage ditches in the area. We had an ice house in town here that was would keep everything cold. So the block of ice would go in here, and then there's a drain hole at the back.
Right there.
Yeah. So that as it melted, it would go through that into a pan under here.
Uh-huh.
And then you had to keep that pan emptied so it didn't run all over the house. And then this is where they would keep things cool. And then here is a jug from the Chapin's Tampico Creamery.
Oh, neat.
And they were well known. They, of course, had milk and cream and cheese, but their cheese was well known. They had a truck that would go to Wisconsin every so often to take cheese up there.
Okay.
So then this is their summer kitchen.
I imagine it got pretty hot in Tampico in the summer.
Sure,
It
sure,
still
you know,
does, right?
It gets warm, right? But this is the eastern side, or the eastern side. So this is the coolest part of the apartment.
Okay.
And so they had a kerosene stove to do the cooking instead of the big old cook stove.
Okay.
And I'm sure they would eat out here, and they could have even slept as large as it is.
I bet so.
So then here's the sign for the Iceman. They'd hang this in the window, and whatever number was on top was what they were ordering.
Okay.
So they just put it over here, and as the Iceman came down, he'd just look up and see what was there.
Okay.
And we have that is not a true outhouse out there, but it's just to give the idea that they would have to go out there.
That's where they went winter, spring, summer, and
Correct,
fall.
correct, yeah.
Wow.
And you can see the Catholic church spire from here.
Yeah, let me zoom in on that. There we go.
Yeah,
So they didn't have very far to go, did they?
right. For Jack,
At least
for
Jack and
yeah.
Neil.
That's considered one of the most beautiful Catholic churches in northern Illinois. It has a lot of marble statuary and stained glass windows and such.
Okay. Okay.
Now, I mentioned before about the funeral home being next door and having a shop in the back. So that picture was actually taken in the shop. And I am not certain if that buggy actually was made over there, but it looks very much like the picture.
Which is right here. Those baby buggies have changed a little bit, haven't they?
Well, and you look at them and you think how, they're all strapped in and everything, and there's with all kinds of padding and such now.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
The kids back then were a little tougher.
I guess so. I guess so. Now, Tampico has 13 buildings on the National Register of Historic Places, especially because of the particular type of architecture that they used.
Okay.
And so what they would do is put one building up, and then they'd put the next building up and just use the same wall. When they did this one, they left the windows in. So there are 3 windows that join the 2 apartments.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Well, it was. I mean, the fact that Daisy Seymour Noakes, who lived here, and Nell were good friends. I mean, you wouldn't want to not get along.
Right.
And so they didn't have to use the stairway to see each other. And they could have built-in babysitters this way.
Right.
So as a baby, Ronald Reagan was handed through this window. And when he was here in 92, the apartment was available, and so he climbed through this window.
I mean,
So this is our famous Reagan window.
I like it. I like it.
And you get to come through it if you'd like.
I do want to. You going to do it, Bob?
Well, hey, we're here.
All right.
When in Rome.
That's right. Here we go. Watch my head.
Yeah, be careful of the head.
All right.
That's right.
And here comes Bob.
And you're younger than me. So your knees probably function.
Well, somewhere in between the two of us, maybe we did it somewhat like Ronald Reagan.
Something like that.
The unique thing, well, of course, Mr. Nicely he was collecting things continually. I have no idea if there's anything about that woman other than just the frame.
I was going to say, do you know who this handsome lady is?
It's just the frame I think he collected. But the unique thing here is the closet joins, it's a mutual closet into the other room.
Oh,
well.
I see that. Wow.
And then you get here, and you look over there, and that's the windows to the funeral home.
Oh, okay. Huh. I'll be darned.
Don't want to climb through that one.
No, I don't think so. I did have somebody one day, they said, do you ever see any ghosts? And I said, what? And he said, well, next door. So, Mr. Nicely used this apartment a lot as he was studying for research. And so these cabinets and such are loaded with newspapers and such that he was going through. He was a retired ag teacher, and of course had the FFA boys, so we still have his emblem over there.
Where's the, oh, there it is.
It's over there.
I have to go.
The last people who were in this apartment, I'm not sure what year it was that they moved out, and the Niceleys bought it. But they had an appliance store downstairs, and also sold lawnmowers and such.
Wow.
All-American calendar. Presidents.
Oh, yeah.
1981.
There's the first 40.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's so nice to see all this. What are the hours of the museum?
We're open from 10 to 4 every day. Sundays 1 to 4.
Okay, wow.
We're not going to be open Easter or Mother's Day, but
Yeah,
other than that,
otherwise you're open. And do you have a Facebook page or a website or a phone number that people should reach?
Well, we have our phone number that they can call. Things have been changed a little bit just recently. See, the Young Americas purchased this, and so they're making some changes, and so the number is 815-438-3018, I think, but I'm not sure. Well, otherwise, they call my number.
Okay, and do you want to share that?
Sure.
Okay.
It's 815-622-8705.
Okay, well, for the folks that are watching, they just saw that on the screen too.
But yeah, it's simpler because if people have come from a long ways and they're not here just at the right time, we want to accommodate them, and we do the best we can.
And tell me the time again that you're...
From 10 to 4.
10 to 4, okay. All right. Well, this is awesome. You got anything else in here that we should take
we'll just head on down.
Okay. Okay, so this is their stairwell.
Yeah, and I guess she forgot to turn this light on, but that's okay.
Well, I'm going to stop the camera here, and we'll start the next segment. Bob, are you going to go down on your rear, or are you going to walk?
Let me get another light on here.
Right.
Bob and I sure get a kick out of doing these Day Trippin' episodes. Please make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. It's free.
Or maybe 2.
All right, we got at least one more thing, maybe 2, right, Joan?
A lady from Wisconsin donated these pieces of the Berlin Wall.
Oh,
And she had lived in Berlin.
that is incredible.
And there was an interesting story because you see there's a little problem here on the edges.
Uh-huh.
She was bringing this down to us, and 4 miles north of town is a two-way stop sign. And she stopped and she thought it was four-way stop sign. And got in a very serious accident.
Oh my goodness.
And these were the only things that show that she was in an accident. But so she, after she recuperated from her injuries, she still made another trip down here to bring this to us. But when he was inaugurated, the first time in 1981, we took 3 busloads of local people out for the inauguration.
Okay.
And we got to watch the parade and had a big Tampico sign as we stood on the bleachers.
Nice.
And our photographer caught him just as he saw Tampico.
Oh, that is very special, isn't it?
It really is.
We'll zoom in a little closer. That is really neat.
But we even had 2 hotels in town at the time.
Wow.
We had the Pitney House, which was over where the fire station is now. And then this other hotel was over just, I think, right next to where the Boyhood home was.
Okay. That's neat. And, that looks like, in today's standards, of just a big house.
Yes. Yeah, right. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Wow, this is really neat.
So this is just kind of odd. I call it odds and ends in here. This is where the grocery store was. So we have a picture of what the grocery store looked like right over here by the door.
Oh, okay.
And that's Mr. Seymour, who Mr. Seymour was his grocery store.
Okay, and that's Mr. Seymour right here, huh?
And then it was his daughter that occupied the apartment upstairs.
Okay.
And then we do have a collection of Christmas cards, all 8 years, and these were presented to us by one of the Secret Service men.
Well, that's very, very special. I see here you've got Maureen Reagan.
Yes.
His daughter. And what's Jane Wyman's mother.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, well, there's Jane Wyman's picture right there. And then, we got to talk about these crazy things right here, these slippers.
Yes, people can donate. They donate us a lot of different things to us, but those are crazy. So there's good things and there's other things that are just strange.
Yeah, yeah. Not very flattering, are they?
No.
Not when you got this one right here. That's really neat. What a treasure this place is.
It is great. We're very, very fortunate that the Niceleys had the foresight to put this together.
Yeah.
Because, it could have been just a plain old building.
Yeah.
And
then people say, well, I think it was that one.
Yeah.
They don't have to. They know it
was here.
Yeah.
Right. So, we're very grateful to them.
Well, Joan, I always try to keep track of the time when I'm recording. And we're probably a good 30 minutes of podcast excellence. And I just thank you so much for your time today, for all of your wonderful information.
Well, you're very welcome.
And for being part of the podcast.
Well, you're welcome. It's enjoyable. I enjoy talking about it when I say the right words.
Well, you are a walking encyclopedia of Ronald Reagan knowledge. That's for sure.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Bob.
Yes,
Quite a tour today.
it was, wasn't it?
I'll tell you, Joan Johnson just did a wonderful job, and we sure appreciate her for letting us know more about this man, one of the greatest presidents of all time, Ronald Reagan, 40th president of the United States.
In small town America at its finest.
It really is, right here in Tampico, Illinois. Thanks again for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, Griner Auto Body, Car Doctor, McDonald Boneyard, Your Choice Family Restaurant, Girling Repair, B&B Propane and the family of Jet Stops, the Dutch Market, and Coffee Talk. Hey, the Dutch Market.
Yes.
He's Bob DeWitt. I'm John Bain. Stay friendly, Southeast Iowa.